Hi everyone, welcome back to If My Heart Had Wings, Kotori's Route, episode 12. So, episode 11 was a very romantic episode between Aoi and Kotori. The fact that they had the whole Flying Fish Manor all to themselves. So, for the entire time, we got to see Aoi and Kotori sharing their past experiences, with Aoi being a cyclist in his old sports school. And then outside, I was talking about how Kotori was like a princess, and he's going to help her achieve her dreams. And even the twins, Asa and Yoru and Ageha, they were spending their night at the secret base, trying not to interfere with the relationship between Aoi and Kotori. And on a last note, I forgot to mention that we skipped over an H scene, and because this is the more novel version, it does not go to that. So it happens right after Kotori says, well, I'm not going to go shower. So in this version, she declines, but in the original version, she accepts, and she goes into the bath with Aoi. So anyways, putting that aside, it's now morning, and let's see what happens today. So once again, Kotori's trying to hide the fact that she flies gliders from her parents because she knows that her parents won't be happy knowing that it was Kotori being airborne that got her injured and unable to walk. So Kotori's like,
何？なんか騒がしいんだけど。おはよう。
So in the morning, I was making something for Kotori. Oh, good morning, Kotori.
起きてきた。おはよう、小鳥。
So everyone's back.
おはようございます、小鳥先輩。おはよう。あんたたちか。ってなんでアゲハまでいるの？いやー、一人寝が寂しくて昨日朝ちゃんたちに混ぜてもらってたの。コロッケいただいてます。これ小鳥先輩が作ったんですよね。
So it's the next day, and they see all the leftovers from last night. So the croquettes that Kotori made for Aoi.
いいけど全部食べちゃダメよ。それ本当は葵のなんだから。葵。
Yoru's response had a bit of a twist to it, or twitch.
今なんかさらっと呼び捨てにしたわね。
Oh, so you made this for Aoi, right? So you want to get praise from him.
どうやら夕べのうちに進展があった模様。うっさいわね。いいでしょ、なんて呼ぼうが。こっちに来なくてよかったわ。危うくお邪魔虫になるところだった。
Oh, so you're being so romantic to Aoi-kun. Kotori, do you want some rice?
大盛りで。
So as I was filling her bowl, I could hear a few voices coming from the hall. So someone else here?
おはよ
So Kanaka returns. And she wasn't alone. So coming in after was...
う。ただいま、水瀬くん。
Oh, Yuka?
疲れた。バスの中で一睡もできなかったよ。おはようございます。
So pretty much everyone's back.
早苗さんに、涼子ちゃんも、みんなどうしたの？かなこさんから電話もらったのよ。
So Kanaka called us.
そうそう、ソアリング部のみんながなんかすごいことするらしいから見といた方がいいよって。それで夜行バスで帰ってきたらみんな時間が同じだったみたいで駅でばったり。
So that's why you're all here so early.
私はさっき寮の前で会ったんだけどね。
Maybe?
あの2階の部屋に隠してあったグライダーで飛ぶんでしょ。なんとかって雲を。
So we're excited to see the Soaring Club going up.
私たちも興味あるからさ。みんな頑張ってたのいつも横で見てたし、一度飛んでるところを見てみたかったから。そう言うと思って一応連絡網回しておいたわけ。みんな。
So from the time our garage was trashed to the time we got our base, the Flying Fish Manor was where we had been doing our work. And it was a bit of a nuisance for Yuka and everyone else, but they never complained and even helped from time to time.
というわけで朝ごはんプリーズ。
But first, breakfast. Okay, there's some croquettes. If you like, Kotori made them.
え、これ小鳥ちゃん作ったの？すごい美味しそう。
They can... So, can they eat them?
もちろんよ。私たちの晴れ舞台を見るためにわざわざ帰ってきてくれたんだもん。
Well, fine then.
でもお口に合うかしら。昨日作ったやつだからもう冷めてるし。
Well, they're not fresh anymore, so I don't know if you will like them still. Well, there's rice and miso soup too, so I'll get you some.
あ、私手伝うわ。
And the entrance doorbell rang just as I was scooping out a serving of rice.
はーい。
So who's here? So Sanai pattered off to the entrance. And a little bit later...
お邪魔します。
Okay, so Tatsuya's here. Oh, hello, Anchan. So as he entered, all of the girls blushed a little and began fixing their hair. So I gotta look nice to this big guy.
おはよう、ハニー。
Oh, so Hotaru's here.
よう来てやったぞ。
Wait. Mabo, Hotaru, what are you doing here?
昨日いちごのお裾分け持っていこうと思ったんだけどな。アゲハにお邪魔になるからやめとけって言われて、仕事行く前に持ってきたんだ。
Okay. So saying that, he put 3 packs of strawberries on the table.
昨日のいちごだ。本当だ。私はあーちゃんに呼ばれて。あーちゃん、はい着替え。おお、悪いわね。
So what about you? So why are you here, Mabo?
あ？こないだ飛んでるとこ見に行った時、なんか中途半端になっちゃっただろ。もう一回ちゃんと見ときたいと思ってな。
Okay, really?
あ、勘違いすんなよ。これは生徒会役員としてだからな。別にお前らなんか興味ねえからな。
I'm sure he cares. Yeah, I get it. I say it. Well, so it's signal spray.
なんか一気に大所帯に。
So Anchan, are you guys going to get some breakfast?
いいのか？
じゃあちょっとだけ。
なんかうまそうだな、このコロッケ。
Well, I guess making all these croquettes was a good call, I guess.
葵の分ちゃんと残るかしら。しかしこうなると足りない人が一人いるわね。
So who else is not here?
おっと言ったそばから。このチャイムの押し方は私見てきます。
So Ryoko heads towards the entrance. And then a moment later...
やあ、おはようみんな。
Okay, so Amane is here. So the advisor, so she needs to be here. So Amane walked in with a huge smile on her face.
本当に来ちゃったよ。
So good morning. So what happened? You're here early.
今日もテストをするんだろう。顧問としてしっかり見ておこうと思ってな。
So I'm your advisor, so I have to watch.
いつも気まぐれで来たり来なかったりするくせに。ご飯の匂いにつられてきたんじゃないでしょうね。
So you're here to eat, right? Not to watch.
いい匂いだ。お腹空いてたのを思い出してしまったぞ。
Okay, here you go.
わーい、ありがとう葵くん。
And in a moment, normal quiet morning suddenly becomes very noisy. And it felt just like the morning before a festival.
葵くん、おかわり。あー、こっちも。
Okay, okay, I'm on it.
こーら、あんたたち食べ過ぎ。葵の分なくなっちゃう。
So Kotori finally snaps like, come on, those croquettes are for Aoi. They're not for all of you people.
葵？
And that just gives it away.
葵？
なになに？
So everyone was paying attention to the way Kotori was speaking.
もういいでしょ、なんて呼ぼうが。
Fine, forget about it. It was a pretty cool morning, and it really felt as if summer was about to end.
ほら、さっさと食べてテストフライトやるわよ。
So don't forget the test flight. And this was likely the last summer for us. Okay, so what's going on? So today's flight is all ready to go, and the morning glory will appear tomorrow. And thinking like that, everyone was able to get into the mood to be really focused on their work. It was set up to be like the real flight, from takeoff all the way to getting up to the clouds. And air currents are heavily dependent on the season, time, and the patterns of pressure in the sky, so it's difficult to fly in the same course the same way. However, places with frequent vertical drafts tend to have them because of topological reasons. So the landmass, the way that the landform is made, the curve of the mountain. And today's flight is trying to be as close as it could to be the real thing. So it's basically I'll say like a mock trial.
どうだった？いけそう？リフトは捕まえられたけど、サーマルに乗るのとは感覚が違うのね。流れが読めなくて戸惑った。意外なところに下降気流が発生してたり。でも大丈夫。だんだん慣れてきたから。
After coming back from our second flight, we were taking a break while Ageha and the crew were checking the glider. So flying an unfamiliar course would be particularly hard since the wind is strong today. And I had been directing the course from behind so that Kotori could focus on maintaining the in-air stance.
想定よりだいぶ流されてたもんね。アゲハ先輩、チェック完了しました。こっち異常なしです。こっちもよ。オッケー。じゃああと5分休憩したら次のフライト行くよ。
Okay, so at break time?
次どこまで飛ぶ？まだ時間あるし、もう一回様子見する？
No, I like to fly while we got the time to spare. I don't want to be trying to come back when the sun's already gone down.
そうね、それがいいと思う。ってことは次は野外着陸も視野に入れてのフライトってわけね。
So an outside landing is basically landing somewhere other than the runway. So if the glider runs out of power, that doesn't mean we can return to the runway like normal. However, if it isn't exactly the same as an emergency landing. Rather, it's to land in a place that won't be a bother, also allows for recovery as needed. So basically divert and land somewhere else and then tow it back to the correct place. Of course, that's ignoring any possible damage to the aircraft. So since we never flew far, we always flew with the assumption we would be returning to the runway. So we're still essentially doing that today, But when the real flight happens, there's no guarantee. So luckily, there's a lot of open land on the mountains side of Kazagura. It shouldn't be hard to find a place to do an outside landing.
だいぶ風が出てきたな。
So Amane whispered as she looked at the clouds moving briskly across the sky. Yeah, so it's much stronger than we had anticipated. We almost had to do an outside landing earlier.
おい、飲み物買ってきたぞ。
So drinks. So Tasaki came back with a convenience store bag in hand. So he had been out on a trip since morning. So it's about the time you usually get bored, but he surprisingly has been helping out with a lot of stuff. So thanks, Mabo.
別にお前のためじゃねえよ。お前の分はついでだからな。
またまた葵大好きっ子なくせに。
ちげえよバカ。俺が愛してるのはあかりさんだ。
So took the cold sports drink from Masugu and handed one to Kotori. So there's no AC in the cockpit, so it's like being in a greenhouse. It's really easy to get dehydrated. Okay, so about time to get going.
渓流解いて。
So since the wind was strong today, the glider was moored to the ground. And after it was released and Kotori headed off to the cockpit.
ああ、そうだ葵。一応非常食代わりにビスケットを。
So as Ageha called out for me and went to take the cookies from her, so the wind suddenly changed directions. Uh-oh. So it looks like something bad is going to happen. So the wind coming from the lake suddenly blew the strongest it had all day. So, what's going on? So turning my head to look, once I heard Amane's shriek, I saw... So not only the glider is being pushed by the sudden burst of wind, but also, so right in front of that, a giant wing, a completely helpless Kotori. Wait, Kotori! And the next thing we knew, Kotori was hit by the main wing and sent flying out her wheelchair. Wait, Kotori! And by the time I had made it to her side, she had lost consciousness. So I paced back and forth in front of the dorm telephone. So it looks like a big accident has happened. And it's not related to flying, it's just that the wind was too strong that it pushed the glider to Kotori.
落ち着きなって。
Yeah. So I paused mid-response. Kotori was taken to the hospital in an ambulance. Ibari went with her, and I had only heard a little from her. And while she had no visible injuries, Kotori was going to be given a thorough examination. So the wing luckily hit her wheelchair, so Kotori was only knocked out of it. Hibari was supposed to contact me and let me know the results, but I still hadn't heard anything. And I stared at my silent phone. And it looks like the doorbell rings. In only a moment, there was a sudden bang on the door.
何?
Come on in. I had backed up and opened the door. And standing there was... the favorite teacher, Tobioka. Tobioka-sensei?
ハマネは無事なのか?
So Tobioka-sensei yelled as soon as he saw me. Wait, how do you know? So why was he that frantic? So hundreds of questions popped into my head. Well, she's still at the hospital.
どこの病院だ?
Which hospital? So I told him the directions and I had heard from Hibari. So she had no obvious injuries. They're just giving her a thorough examination right now. So looking closely, I could see that he was sweating. And besides breathing heavily, his forehead was producing beads of sweat that were messing up his thin hair. So it seems like he had heard about the accident and instantly ran here. And no, not seems like. Oh, so Morino-san should be at the hospital. So Morino-san is our home teacher, but Tobioka-sensei isn't. So why would he rush all the way here? Oh, so actually Morino-sensei.
どうかしたのか？すごい音がしていたけど。
So I heard a loud noise. So Amane had come running from the dining hall after hearing the noise. So Tobioka-sensei glared at Amane as soon as he saw her.
望月、これはお前の責任だぞ。お前が顧問を引き受けたりしたからだ。
So you're responsible for all the incidents that occurred.
また同じことを繰り返すつもりか?
So Amane stood still, seemingly paralyzed by fear from the vicious reprimanding that Tobioka barked. So he then gave us a rage-filled stare.
無許可の校外活動で事故を起こした。もう言い逃れはさせんぞ。
So basically, this all happened because it was done illegally, without supervision and without proper approvals and oversight.
ソアリング部は無期限の活動停止。あの忌々しいグライダーも没収だ。もしまた違反したら、処分してやるから覚悟しろ。
So any objections against my orders will result in stricter punishment, which can involve expulsion. And he spoke as if he had some deep-seated grudge, and when finished, he marched out from the dorm. He was likely headed to the hospital Kotori had been taken to.
何だったの?
Well, I have no idea. So Tobioka-sensei was mad. I could understand and even have predicted that much. So he was more than angry. However, I could see that he was genuinely worried about Kotori. He wasn't her homeroom teacher, supervisor, or even had much contact with her. He had no particular reason to feel that strong about Kotori. Well, while that was probably normal for a teacher, it still seemed way too strong.
私の責任だ。
So Maya spoke quietly.
だからそうじゃないですってば。
So we had repeated this conversation a number of times after Kotori had been taken to the hospital.
顧問っていうのは建前みたいなもので、責任は私らにあるんです。
Well, I'm sure in legal sense it's still Amane's fault because I'm sure the teachers, they pressured Amane not to take on the faculty advisor role for the Soaring Club. It's like, well, this is a very dangerous club. It's had so many problems in the past, and if you take on the role of a faculty advisor, that means everything that goes wrong, you're going to have to pay for it. So Kari had said you can't be recognized as a club unless you have a supervisor or a club advisor, which is why we asked Amane. And that was just a front, though. So we tend to take all responsibility for so if something were to actually happen. But the truth is that when something did happen, Amane would be the one to take the fall.
いや、でも引き受けたのは私だ。飛岡先生が怒るのは当然だ。
先輩。
So there was nothing that could be said to console her. all we could do is now pray that Kotori is okay. Okay, I see. Oh, really? Okay, that's good. So I see. So thanks to you for going through the trouble to call me. So please tell her that I said hi. So I let out a sigh of relief and set down the phone.
なんだって?
So what did the hospital say? They said that they didn't find anything wrong, so she'll be spending the night at the hospital just to be safe.
よかった.
So at least Kotori's fine and...
よかったです.
So that was Hibari on the phone. And she had called to explain Kotori's situation.
無事だったみたいね.
So Kaneko came out from the hallway and gave us all a look. So sorry that I kept you worrying.
本当だよ。ねえ、ハット先輩。こわこわ。
So while there was no way that Hat knows what happened, his quack made it apparent that he knows Kotori's absence meant something is not right.
ゆかさんたちにも教えてこよう
So Kaneko left the dining hall, taking Hat with her.
と。それじゃあ、私そろそろ帰るね。
Okay, well I'll walk with you for a bit. So what are you going to do, Amane? So I'll prepare a room if you want to stay here for the night.
いや、仕事があるから戻るよ。何かあったら知らせてほしい。
Okay, I got it. So knowing that Kotori was okay, we finally were able to move away from the phone. So okay, that is resolved. So I went outside with Ageha. So the cicadas sure have gotten quiet. So it's getting late.
もう夏も終わりだもんね。
So after a few days, it'll be September and summer vacation will be over. So much had happened to us this month that it was over before any of us knew it. So Ageha stopped unexpectedly. So what's wrong?
葵。
So Ageha folded her hands around mine. Yes? So her hands were trembling. And not only her hands, but her shoulders, her knees, her lips. It was as if the trembles had taken over her entire body.
安心したら、急に怖くなってきちゃって。
But it was scary.
ごめん。ちょっとの間だけ。
Okay. So I answered briefly and began to hold her hands back in return.
倒れてる小鳥を見たとき、すごく怖かった。小鳥にもしものことがあったらどうしようって。怖くて。
So as she whispered this, Ageha was shaking as if she had chills. It was as if her blood was frozen, the same feeling I had when I saw what happened to Kotori. It was truly a horrifying, chilling moment. And I tightly held Ageha's hands. I wasn't sure if it was to comfort her or myself.
少し落ち着いた。
Okay, I feel a bit better. So Ageha let go of my hands.
ありがとう、葵。
Don't mention it. I feel a bit relieved myself. So, being with you?
小鳥には後でちゃんと謝っとくね。葵の手を借りちゃったって。
So Ageha smiled and laughed. She was back to her normal self. That's good. So we continued to walk.
日が沈んでく。
So Ageha whispers as she looks up at the slightly hilly road we were walking on. and the setting sun gives the sky and clouds an orange glow.
この分じゃ明日も来そうにないね。
So it looks like tomorrow's not going to be the day. Yeah. So on the night before the morning glory's appearance, the eastern sky is purple. So it's orange today. So last year we saw a bluish purple sky. And the next morning, Amane was cursing at the sky. So tonight's moon was orange as always, and the morning glory won't be coming tomorrow. Well, I hope it doesn't come while Kotori is not here.
本当だよ。そんなことになったらあの子一生根に持つよ。
Oh yeah, so what happened to the glider then?
あ、
Well... Oh, so look over there. So we can see the shadows of about 5 people on the runway. So they were dismantling our glider. Okay, so now that Tobioka has ordered the Soaring Club to be shut down and the glider confiscated, it looks like the staff members are following the orders and taking the glider apart.
先生たちだ。
So amongst the faces, I saw teachers from our school. Hey, so what are you doing?
おい、みなせ。邪魔するんじゃないぞ。
So get out of here, Minase. Tobioka-sensei?
言っただろう。グライダーは没収すると。もともと、お前たちが学校から盗み出したものだがな。
So on top of that, it's stolen. So they took off the main wing and then dumped it into the back of a truck.
やめて！そんな積み方したら翼が！
I don't think they care. So Ageha ran up to the teachers.
このトレーラーを使ってください！
So a trailer made specially for transporting the glider was nearby. And Ageha realized that stopping them was not possible, so instead she focused on helping them use the trailer. She didn't want the glider to get damaged.
葵も手伝って！
Oh, okay.
いい心がけだ。
Okay, so I guess it could be saved for something else. So we showed the teachers how to dismantle it and got it loaded into the trailer.
積み込みが完了したら学校へ運んでください。
So Tobioka-sensei gave orders to the other teachers. So what are you going to do with the glider?
お前たちには関係ない。言っておくが、次もし盗っ人のような真似をしたら、ただでは済まさんぞ。
We won't. So you don't have to know about that. But if it gets stolen again, we will. Or like if you steal it again, you won't be so lucky.
それでは車を出してください。
Get out of here. So the trailer and the car pulling it began to move. And after confirming it was okay, Tobioka-sensei went over to his own car. And at that moment, he turned his head to look at us. And when our eyes met, he looked at me as if nothing had happened. He proceeded to get in his car and drove off the runway. And all we could do is watch it being taken away. And the next day,
たったいまー！
so Kotori is back and she's discharged. So a bit after noon, Hibari brought Kotori back.
小鳥先輩！姉さん、ストップ！
So Asa lunged towards Kotori, but Yoru held her back.
病み上がりだってば姉さん。
So she's not fully recovered yet.
クワックワッ。
Yep, says Hat. So Hat flew over to Kotori and sat on her lap.
ただいま、ハット。
So seeing her like this, I let out a sigh of relief. So everyone had waited here for her to come back.
いやー、なんか悪いわね。勢ぞろいでお出迎えしてくれちゃって。ほんと、何様だよ、あんた。
So is everything alright then?
なんともないわよ。ちょっと頭を打っただけだから。
So just minor injuries, nothing bad in particular.
軽い脳震盪だってさ。本当は昨日のうちに帰りたかったんだけど、ひばり姉が心配性でさ。
So technically I was already okay yesterday, but Hibari just wanted me to stay longer.
でもほら、もうこの通りピンピンしてるから。
So Kotori was waving her arms all around and being unusually talkative. It's like, oh look, I'm fine, so don't worry about me, I'm okay, see? Just a little minor injury and... So her wheelchair was a bit banged up though. But that can be fixed, and if it doesn't work out, then they can just get another wheelchair. So just from seeing her wheelchair, I could tell how hard the impact was. Oh, I'm sorry, Kotori.
なんで葵が謝るのよ。
So if I hadn't left your side, this would never have happened.
それは違うでしょ。私が勝手に離れたんだから。あれは私の不注意。他の誰も悪くありません。それになんともなかったんだから問題ないでしょ。
So Hibari stood behind her cheerful sister with a solemn expression on her face.
さてと、そんじゃ訓練を再開しましょ
Well, that's not possible anymore.
う。え？
Wait, practice, but you know...
だって昨日中途半端になっちゃったでしょ。まだ本番を想定したフライトできてないし、病院の窓から空を見ながら気が気じゃなかったわよ。今モーニンググローリーが来ちゃったらどうしようって。
So during the entire stay at the hospital, Kotori's concerned if the morning glory is going to appear.
さあ行きましょう。時間がもったいない。バカなこと言わないで。
So a scream suddenly ripped out from the pale Hibari.
昨日あんなことがあったばかりなのよ。あんなことって別に大した怪我じゃなかったんだし、たまたま運が良かっただけよ。また同じことがあったら次はどうなるかわからないわ。
So you've been injured once, and what happens if it happens again?
お願いひばりね。モーニンググローリーがもう来ちゃうの。多分今夜か、そうじゃないなら明日か明後日か。もう時間がないの。ダメよ、許さないわ。
Well, you'll have to give up on it.
ひばりね。
Well, Kotori, at least right now, you should rest. I mean,
葵まで休んでる暇なんてないの知ってるくせに。私なら大丈夫よ。お医者さんのお墨付きももらってきたんだから。
so even the doctor says that I'm okay. Well, I didn't know whether or not to tell her about what happened with the glider being confiscated. So if I told her, she would be devastated. She would absolutely feel that it was her fault. Without me saying anything, Hibari begins to speak.
もうダメなの、小鳥ちゃん。たとえ私がいいって言っても続けられないわ。どういうこと？
So the front doorbell rings. And we weren't expecting anyone right now, so it's probably a teacher or someone like that. I'll be right there. And after opening the door, well-dressed man in suit walked in.
お父さん？
So Kotori's dad is here too.
小鳥。
So seeing his daughter, he ran over and kneeled down next to her wheelchair.
頭を打ったんだって。大丈夫なのかい？
So are you okay?
平気よ。なんともないわ。
No, it's okay. So nothing really happened.
けれど、昨日は入院したんだろ？
ただの検査入院。ちょっと坂道で転んだだけだから。小鳥ちゃん、お父さんは全部ご存知よ。
So Kotori-san, I'm sad to say, apparently he knows the entire story about what happened. So you can't really cover up anymore.
昨日全部お話ししたの。事故の原因も小鳥ちゃんが隠れてやっていたことも。
So, saying nothing, Kotori's father looked at her with tears in his eyes. So, Kotori turned to look at Hibari.
約束が違う。夏休みが終わるまで待ってくれるって言ってたのに。言わないわけにはいかないでしょ。
But unfortunately, you had to go to the hospital, so the information is, or like hiding it is too risky at this point. So we have to tell him what really happened.
でも、そんなことしたらお父さんたちが。
So Kotori glances over at her father. He was looking at her with intense sadness. She turned her head away in shame.
私たちがどんなに心配するかちゃんと分かっていたんだね。それなのに。違うの、
お父さん。だってそうしないと許してくれないから。だから。
当たり前じゃないか。お前は自分がどうしてそんな体になってしまったのか忘れたのか。
So the same argument that Hibari made to Kotori in episode 10. So Kotori shook her head.
じゃあどうしてグライダーなんて危険な乗り物に乗ったりしたんだ。
So her father's voice was quiet yet reproachful. So Kotori hung her head low and said nothing in response.
お願いお父さん。夏休みが終わるまででいいの。私にグライダーを続けさせて。
ダメだ。
Well, I can't let that happen anymore.
お父さん。
そんな危険な遊び続けさせるわけにはいかない。
私、ここにいるみんなと一緒に頑張ってきたの。この夏のために。遊びじゃないの。真剣なの。
So Kotori's father looked at his daughter with sad eyes.
グライダーで空を飛んだからなんだと言うんだ。そんなもの危険なだけじゃないか。遊びたいならもっと他のことをすればいい。お父さんが探してあげるから。
So what other options can Kotori pick if glider is a bad choice? Because I'm sure playing on a simulator is not going to make Kotori happy. Or just taking a flight as a passenger.
違うの。そうじゃないの。
So Kotori was searching for the right words to defend herself, but she could not find them. So why she wanted to fly, why it had to be a glider, she needed to be able to say why she had those feelings. Well, I'm sure Kotori has those feelings, but just can't really say it out loud. And it's going to be hard to convince the father, given that her father does remember about the injury that Kotori got initially. So, I mean the hot air balloon incident. So whatever words she would pick just would not convey her feelings to anyone else. So looking at his daughter struggling for words, he let out a heavy sigh.
もうここには置いておけない。さあ、お父さんと一緒に家へ帰ろう。
そんな。待ってよ。話を聞いてよ。
So Kotori threw her head up to protest, but her father began to wheel her out while completely ignoring her. Oh, please wait, Habane-san. So I couldn't help but throw myself between Kotori and her father.
水瀬さん。
So he looked at me with puzzled eyes. And when he called a few days before, Kotori's father had completely trusted me. But then again, it takes one bad thing to break the trust. So I had betrayed the trust. And like Kotori, I had not said things that should have been said. So, well, we all worked towards getting Kotori to be able to fly. I don't think that's what he wants to hear right now. So you said on the phone, didn't you, about how Kotori was changing all due to me? So that's not right. If it was all due to the glider, then all of her friends here. Kotori nodded desperately. And this time there was an accident, but our goal is right in front of our eyes. So if you say Kotori can't fly, then she can't, but please just let her finish this. and I spoke as earnestly as I could. My head was bowed to him.
私からもお願いします。お願いします。小鳥先輩のお父さん。お願いします。
So what is he gonna say now? So her father looked at the members of the Soaring Club, each with their heads bowed.
この子がハンデを負っていることはあなたたちもよくご存知のはずだ。
Well, I feel like none of you considered Kotori and her limitations, and you just let her do as she wished, or you kind of pushed your own lifestyle onto her.
あなたたちが普通にできることもこの子にはできないんですよ。
So he spoke in a quiet yet grave tone.
この子をあなたたち普通の若者の夢に巻き込まないでやってください。
お父さん、そんな言い方やめて。
本当のことだ。
So Kotori turned pale as she heard what her father was saying.
私、すごく頑張ったのよ。いっぱい練習して上手になったの。ちゃんと自分で操縦して飛べるようにもなったんだから。
それはここにいる皆さんの助けがあってのことだろ。
それにグライダーはとっても安全な乗り物なんだから。
So the reason you were able to fly is because other people are helping you, not because of yourself.
だから私が乗ったって。
お前が家を出るとき私たちに言ったことを覚えているかい？お前はこう言ったんだ。お父さんたちに心配をかけてばかりなのが嫌だ。だから一人で慶風学園に行きたいと。
その気持ちは今も変わってない。
So as she said that, her father ran his hand over the damaged part of her wheelchair.
たまたま当たったのが車椅子だったからよかった。もし体のどこか頭にでも当たっていたらどうなっていたか。さあ帰ろう小鳥。お母さんも心配してる。早く安心させてやってくれ。
So he starts pushing the wheelchair, and if I didn't do anything, Kotori would be gone forever. Wait!
待って、お父さん。
Kotori stopped the wheels.
小鳥。
Well, no more complaints. We're going home.
お願い、ここにいさせて。グライダーやめるから、もう乗らないから。だからお願い。私、ここにいたいの。
So Kotori's father looked at his crying daughter with sadness in his own eyes.
お父さんたちの気持ちも分かっ
But
てく
you
れ。
have to be considerate.
私、帰りたくない。
小鳥。
ねえ、お父さん、小鳥ちゃんに少し時間をあげて。今夜は私が小鳥ちゃんを引き取るから、少し落ち着いてからお話ししましょう。ね、小鳥ちゃんもそうしましょう。
Okay, so how about I take care of Kotori for the night so you don't have to worry, Dad? So Kotori's father silently nodded.
また迎えに行く。それまでこの子を頼む。小鳥、後でお母さんに電話して元気な声を聞かせてあげておくれ。
But at least call her.
わかった。
So Hibari made a slight bow to us and began to push Kotori's wheelchair. Kotori?
葵。
So Kotori's going to leave. As I started to run after them, Kotori's father turned to face me.
これは私たち家族の問題なんです。
So pretty much the same as what Kotori said before. It's like, this is a family problem. And that was about Kotori not wanting to go home. So he said this with an anguished look on his face and then proceeded to put his head down and leave. Okay, so after Kotori left, a sadness fell upon all in the dorm. We all gathered in the dining hall for no particular reason. So not wanting to be alone, I stayed nearby in the kitchen and did some of my work.
小鳥先輩、戻ってきますよね。
So is she okay?
当然でしょ。本人がそれを望んでるんだから。それにしても、娘の話もろくに聞かずに。ひどい親。
Well, I don't really think there's much to say when we have in any of this. So everyone turned to look at me after my whisper carried over the counter. So when Kotori was unconscious after the accident, we were also worried. No, we were scared. And as I spoke, everyone's expressions went dark as they remembered that moment. So to hear that news all the way in Tokyo, her father must have been completely terrified.
うん。だろうね。だからって、あんな言い方ひどいです。小鳥先輩が、私たちと同じ夢を見られないなんて。
So please don't get her all wrapped up in your normal person dreams. And even though it wasn't about me, hearing her father say those words ripped my heart out. And I had always been by her side to see all of her efforts, her dreams, not able to realize what was crushing. And I can't imagine how Kotori felt when she heard that. And now we have a doorbell again.
葵くん、ひばりさん来てるよ。
So everyone looked up as Kanako called for me. So I dried off my hands and hurried over to the entrance.
先ほどは父が失礼をしました。
No, well, I should be the one apologizing, so it's not my place to say anything. Well, anyways, how's Kotori?
今、私の家にいます。泣き疲れて眠ってしまいました。落ち着いたら、今夜にでも父と話し合ってもらうつもりです。
I see. So I was relieved to know she wouldn't be going back to Tokyo immediately.
父の態度に気を悪くされたでしょう。
Well, that's not really it.
父も今は事故やグライダーのことを急に聞かされ、気が動転しているんだと思います。ショックだったと思います。私もそうでしたから。
So, all the things that were hidden were revealed in the worst way possible. So after Kotori got hospitalized. And considering that, he was quite calm, even gentlemanly. Well, I'm sorry that I didn't say anything.
小鳥ちゃんの事故のことをご存じなければしょうがないと思います。それに悪いのは心配をかけるのを分かっていて黙っていたあの子ですから。
So what's going to happen with her? Hibari's facial expression told me that she didn't know.
父と小鳥ちゃんの話し合い次第だと思います。
So apparently that's going to be between Kotori and the father. So if he's opposed to it, she'll never lay a finger on the glider again. So wouldn't she be able to stay if that were the case?
そう約束していただけるなら、私からも父に頼んでみます。
Well, if you can promise that, then maybe I'll have something to convince the father to let Kotori stay here. Thanks. So Hibari bowed and took her leave.
どうだった？
Oh, so what happened? Says Ageha. So I'll go ahead and stop here for this episode. And it looks like we suffered a really big setback here. So the accident happened not because of Kotori's flying mistakes, but because of the weather, and it unfortunately blew the glider to Kotori's wheelchair. And that's big enough for the school and Kotori's family to be worried. So for the father, he has his reasons about why he doesn't want Kotori to fly, because well, we're trying to keep you safe. We feel sorry that we allowed you to be injured from the hot air balloon incident. And we don't want you to pursue any more dangerous activities. But then, Kotori, you went off on your own to pursue flying a glider, and that is considered dangerous, even more so than the hot air balloon. And to make it worse, you hid it from all of us. And it took the practice flights for Hibari to know what's going on, and the accident for the father to know what's going on. And for the school, I'm sure Tobioka-sensei already has a grudge against having the Soaring Club alive. And if you remember, it was the student council, Akari, who approved it, even though the faculty members didn't approve it yet. And I'm sure it's like, well, Akari, you're also at fault because you approved a club without our consent. And Amane, so by taking on the role as a faculty advisor, you're responsible for everything that happens in this club. And I think it's like, well, also, there are more violations. One, the glider's stolen from the school storage room. And two, you're holding activities outside of the school campus. So you're doing things without oversight and supervision from proper people. So other teachers, the administration, and other students. So I've already played this in Japanese, so I know what happens, but hopefully in the next episode, we're going to see how they're going to get out of this and what Kotori and her father agree on. And with that in mind, I'll see you in the next episode.